Wade Mercer had spent most of dinner turning my brother's death into a story about what women could not do. He waited until the waiter had cleared the salad plates. Then he leaned back, rested one hand on the shoulder of the man who was marrying my sister in 3 days, and smiled as if he were about to share something generous. "You were infantry, Ethan," he said. "Tell her. Men know when a woman freezes." My sister Claire stopped peeling the label from her water bottle. My mother aligned her spoon with the edge of her napkin. Nobody looked at me except Ethan. He had been quiet since I arrived. Polite but watchful, he had asked 3 questions about my time in the army, and Wade had answered every one of them for me. Now Ethan looked down at his left wrist. He unbuckled the watch he was wearing and laid it beside his plate. The face was scratched. A crack ran diagonally through the number 7. The crown was broken near the stem, and the minute hand sat 11 minutes ahead of the clock on the wall. I knew the watch before I understood why he had it. Ethan touched the cracked glass with one finger. "Did you always set this 11 minutes fast?" Wade's hand slipped from his shoulder. Claire looked from the watch to me. "You two know each other." Ethan did not answer her. He turned the watch over. 2 small letters had been scratched into the metal casing. LA, the initials belonged to a name I had not used in 11 years. I looked at the broken crown, the gouge near the clasp, and the thin line across the glass. That watch had left my wrist in the confusion on the night Kyle died. I remembered handing it to someone when our own timepieces became unreliable. I had never remembered who. By the time I tried to trace it, the unit had scattered and the watch had disappeared into everything we could not carry home. To explain why the man marrying my sister owned it, I have to go back a few hours. Then a few years, then 14 years, to a night my family had been telling wrong for so long that even I had started to remember parts of it in Wade's voice. Claire called me at 3 that afternoon. I was eating crackers over the kitchen sink before leaving for the hospital. I had worked the night shift, slept badly, and still had a pillow line across one cheek. "You're still coming tonight, right?" she asked. I bought a dress. "That isn't an answer. I'm coming," she exhaled around the next sentence. Claire had been doing that since childhood, breathing as if conflict could be kept outside her lungs. Dad printed a speech for the wedding, for dinner. "Maybe both." I stopped chewing. "It's mostly about Kyle," she said. "Ethan served, so Dad wants him to say a few words." "Did Ethan know Kyle?" "He knew him from the unit." "He said they weren't close. Then Ethan should say only what he actually knows." I told Dad that, and he said soldiers understand soldiers. That was Wade's favorite way to turn ownership into respect. He believed men who served had access to one another's dead. Women in uniform were guests in the arrangement. Claire lowered her voice. "Ethan knows you were in the army. He doesn't know everything." "There isn't an everything, you know what I mean." I did. Wade's version had survived 14 years because it was simple. I had been an officer. Kyle had served under my command. During an attack, I panicked, ordered a withdrawal too early, and left my own brother behind. Then I left the army and became a nurse because some people spend the rest of their lives paying for one decision. That last sentence was how Wade made cruelty sound merciful. "Can tonight just be about the wedding?" Claire asked. "It should be, so you won't correct every detail?" The word detail hurt more than it should have. Truth had become a collection of small inconveniences everyone expected me to carry quietly. "I'm not planning a briefing over dessert. I didn't mean it like that." "You usually don't." She went silent. "Mom wants you there," she said. "Does Wade?" "It's my dinner." That was not an answer either. "I'll be there at 7. Before hanging up, she said, "Ethan's good, Lena. He won't judge you." Judgment was not the worst thing a person could do. Judgment at least admitted you existed. Being reduced to a warning inside somebody else's story was worse. I opened the drawer beside the stove. Inside were a spare watch band, 2 dead batteries, an old photograph face down, and a plastic bag holding a broken clasp. The watch had belonged to my father. My mother gave it to me when I commissioned. White numbers. I scratched LA into the back with a nail because my father used to say $20 was too much to pay someone to write 2 letters. LA stood for Lena Alvarez, my married name during every year Ethan had known me. After my divorce, I went back to Ortiz. I kept the spare band because throwing it away felt like admitting the watch was gone. Then I changed my blouse. The first showed the scar along my forearm. Wade liked to look at that scar and ask whether hospital work was still hard on my nerves. The second blouse had long sleeves. Wade entered my life when I was 12. My mother, Isabel Ortiz, married him 2 years later. He brought a 6-year-old son named Kyle, and the certainty of a man who believed every household improved when he entered it. Claire was born the following year. We became family slowly, through shared bathrooms, missing cereal, borrowed clothes, and long drives with arguments over the middle seat. Kyle was 6 years younger than me and almost impossible to frighten. At 9, he climbed onto a roof for a grocery bag caught in the gutter because he thought it might choke a bird. At 14, he broke his wrist defending a stray dog. At 19, he joined the army because, in his words, "I'm bad at watching other people do things." He moved toward trouble before asking whether trouble needed him. Wade called it instinct. I called it a habit that could spend somebody else's time. Kyle believed a good reason could rescue a bad decision. I believed decisions had to survive their consequences. At home, that difference was survivable. In Afghanistan, it became command. I was 34 and a captain leading a military police company. Kyle was a sergeant attached to a team under our operational control. I tried to have him reassigned. The request was denied because our relationship had been declared the required contact, and we were not in the same direct reporting chain. Outside that chain, we did not advertise it. Kyle refused to be known as the captain's brother, and I needed every order to stand without a family explanation. The week before deployment, he came to my apartment with beer and a box of screws because my kitchen cabinet was, in his words, leaning politically. While he tightened the hinge, he said, "At least over there, you'll have to call me Sergeant. Only if you earn the word every day." He looked at me over the cabinet door. "You practice sounding like everybody is already disappointing you." That is not what I said. It's close. He fixed the hinge, hugged me, and left one beer in my refrigerator. Kyle always left one sip in a cup or one drink in a bottle. He said he hated making anything feel completely finished. 3 weeks before he died, he broke a movement timeline to help a civilian family whose truck had stalled beside the road. He gave them water and arranged a tow. It was decent. It also delayed his team 6 minutes and left 3 vehicles exposed. Nobody was hurt, which made it easier for Kyle to believe the decision had been right. I called him into the maintenance area after the team returned. Ethan Cole was checking a damaged mirror. Marcos Reed, Kyle's squad leader, stood near the tool bench. Kyle came in smiling. "You wanted to see me, Captain? Your team missed the movement window by 6 minutes. 6 minutes is missing it. There were children on the road. I read the report, so you know why we stopped." "I know why. I'm asking whether you understand what the stop cost." "Nobody got hit. That is not a measurement of whether the decision was sound." His smile disappeared. "You left 3 vehicles exposed because you believed your reason exempted you from the timeline. I helped a family. Good intentions don't get to spend everybody else's time." Kyle looked toward Ethan and Marcus. Neither objected. "That sounds like something you would say at home," he said. "This is not home. It always follows you. No, you bring it here when you decide an order is personal." His jaw tightened. I could see the boy on the roof and the sergeant responsible for everyone behind his vehicle. "Your instinct is useful," I told him. "Your belief that it makes you untouchable is not." He looked at my watch. "You time everything? Anything that can get somebody killed." "That must be exhausting." "It is." He left angry. I learned later that he emailed several people from the team that night. I was not included. At 7 that evening, I entered the steakhouse and saw Ethan standing near the private dining room. I did not recognize his face immediately. 14 years changes a man. He had more weight through the shoulders, silver beginning near his temples, and a small scar above his right eyebrow that I did not remember. He wore a dark jacket and no tie. Claire stood beside him with one hand tucked through his arm. Then Ethan reached for the door. The watch slid from beneath his cuff. I stopped walking. Claire smiled and came toward me. "You made it." She hugged me hard enough to make the moment look uncomplicated. Ethan extended his hand. "Lena, right?" His voice did it. "Some voices age without changing shape." "Ethan," I said. His hand remained in mine half a second longer than necessary. His eyes dropped to my face, then to my hands. He was searching for the woman he remembered inside the one Claire had described. Wade called from the room. "Are we waiting for written orders?" Ethan released my hand. I walked in. Wade had arranged the table with himself at the center. Claire and Ethan sat to his right. My mother sat to his left. I was placed across from Ethan, near the end. The first 20 minutes were harmless enough. Wade talked about parking. My mother asked whether the flowers had arrived. Claire described a problem with the bakery. Ethan's parents were kind, quiet people from New Mexico who seemed to understand that Wade needed to speak more than anyone else. Then Wade asked Ethan about the army. What unit were you with? Ethan gave a general answer, infantry all the way. Mostly. Some Wade nodded as if Ethan had passed an exam. Kyle was the same way, never wanted a desk. I looked at my water. Ethan looked at me, Wade continued. Lena was more of the paperwork side. I commanded a company, I said. Wade waved one hand. You know what I mean, I usually do. Claire's foot touched mine beneath the table. A warning, not comfort. Ethan asked, where were you stationed? Several places. Wade answered for me. She spent most of her time in administrative assignments. I turned to Ethan. I deployed to Afghanistan. His thumb moved across the broken crown of the watch. What area? Near Ghazni for part of it. The room changed slightly. Not visibly. Ethan did not gasp or straighten. He became still in the specific way trained people do when separate details form one possibility. Wade interrupted. Kyle was out there too. Different kind of work. He was always outside the wire, so was I said. Wade smiled at Ethan's father. You know how officers describe things. My mother adjusted her spoon. The appetizers arrived. Wade told a story about Kyle fixing a damaged vehicle during a convoy halt. It was based on a real event, but he omitted that Marcus had ordered the repair and that 4 other soldiers had worked beside Kyle. In Wade's version, Kyle acted alone while everyone else waited for instructions. Ethan listened without eating. What was Lena's last name then? He asked. Wade looked at him. Does it matter? It might. I folded my napkin once. Alvarez. Ethan's eyes dropped to the back of the watch. Claire noticed. Nothing yet, he said. Wade laughed. Military people. Always looking for a code where there isn't one. The main course arrived. Ethan asked one more question. Were you a captain? Yes. Military police? Yes. Wade leaned forward. Captain or not, Kyle didn't come home. That was how he regained control. Any conversation about my service ended at the same locked door. Kyle died, I lived. Wade believed survival was a verdict. He began his toast before anyone had finished eating. I know this is Claire and Ethan's night, he said, already making it something else. But marriage is also about the people who should have been here. Claire looked down. Wade raised his glass. Kyle would have liked you, Ethan. He respected men who knew the difference between courage and caution. Ethan did not raise his drink. Wade continued. Some people spend the rest of their lives trying to make up for one bad decision. His eyes moved to me. That was when he placed his hand on Ethan's shoulder. You were infantry, tell her. Men know when a woman freezes. Ethan removed the watch. He placed it on the table. Did you always set this 11 minutes fast? Nobody spoke. I leaned forward enough to see the broken crown. The crown stopped working. So you scratched the deadline into the glass. Wade frowned. What are you talking about? Ethan turned the face toward me. The crack passed through 7. Near 11 was a short white scratch in the dark surface. I had made it with the tip of a field knife after the crown snapped, marking the time the wall clock had to reach before we moved. Claire whispered Lena. Ethan said, Captain Alvarez, did you mark the glass at 11? I did. He looked at me fully, not at my scar, not at Wade. Not at the story surrounding me, at me. I thought it was you. He kept one hand beside the watch. I tried to return it through the unit after we came home, he said. It came back 6 months later. Captain Alvarez had already left. For 14 years, he had kept safe the thing I thought the war had swallowed. Wade's chair creaked as he shifted back. You served with her? Ethan kept his eyes on mine. Yes. Claire's fingers tightened around the remains of the bottle label. In her unit? Yes. Wade recovered quickly. He had always been good at moving the argument before anyone could stand on solid ground. Then you know she was in command when Kyle died. Ethan looked toward him. I know she was in command. And Kyle didn't come home, that is true. Wade nodded as if the exchange had ended in his favor. Rank did not threaten him. Responsibility did not threaten him. He believed both belonged to his version. I looked at the watch and remembered the night the crown broke. Our team had been supporting the evacuation of a small site before a route closure. The exact location does not matter, the people do. There were soldiers, civilian personnel, 2 drivers, 3 local workers, and Farid Rahmani, an interpreter who had worked with the unit for almost a year. The plan had already changed twice. One vehicle would not start. Communications were unstable. A warning came through that the route would become unusable sooner than expected. We had 11 minutes to move before the safe window closed. Ethan's watch had shattered when he struck his wrist against a vehicle hatch. Mine had stopped, the crown had snapped, but the hands could still be moved with the tip of a field knife. I pushed the minute hand forward to the exact time the route would close and scratched a line into the glass beside it. Then I handed it to Ethan. When the wall clock catches this, we move, I told him. No subtraction, he looked at the face. It's 11 fast. That is the point. Kyle stood 5 feet away helping Marcus check names. Fareed was missing. Kyle said he was at the East Building. Marcus replied he was told to report here. He may not have heard. I looked at Kyle. Nobody separates. There's still time. There is not time for you to invent another plan. He got half our people through every checkpoint this month. I know who he is, then let me go. No, Kyle's expression hardened. The argument between officer and sergeant lasted less than 10 seconds. The argument between brother and sister had been waiting for years. You always think leaving on time means leaving right, he said. I think bringing everyone else into your decision requires permission. He's out there, and we are moving. Kyle looked toward the dark buildings to the east. I turned to Marcus. Count again. Marcus counted. Ethan watched the wall clock close the gap to the marked hand. A driver shouted that the disabled vehicle was clear. I gave the movement order. The first vehicles pulled out. At the next position, Marcus counted again. 2 people were missing. Colin Farid, there are moments when command feels like standing inside several futures at once. In one, we continued moving and preserved the safe route. In another, we turned back and lost more people. In another, Kyle found Fareed and returned before the window closed. In another, the decision had already been made without me. I did not freeze. I wish sometimes that I had. Freezing would have given me one clean failure. Instead, I made a decision that saved people and still did not save my brother. I halted the vehicles under cover. Marcus took control of the main group. I selected a small team for the return. Ethan was one of them because he held the fixed deadline and had started a manual count the moment we left cover. We moved back by a different path. There was no heroic charge. No music, no speech. There were shouted directions. Bad visibility. A damaged gate. And the sound of Ethan calling the remaining minutes while we searched. We found Farid first. Kyle had reached him near the East Building. Fareed's ankle was injured. Kyle was supporting him. The return took longer than Kyle had expected. That was the part Wade never allowed into his story. Kyle had not gone back because he wanted glory. He had gone back because Fareed had saved American lives, and Kyle could not tolerate the idea of leaving him. The motive was honorable. The decision still placed everyone else at risk. As we moved toward the vehicles, the situation deteriorated. Kyle was hit during the withdrawal. I will not describe the injury. There are details that belong to the people who were there, not to strangers looking for proof that something hurt. He was alive when we reached the medical point. He knew Fareed had made it. He also knew I had returned. Kyle looked at the watch in Ethan's hand and managed half a smile. "You're late," he said to me. "So are you." Those were the last words we exchanged while he was conscious. At the steakhouse, Wade tapped one finger against the table. "Being a captain does not change what happened." "No," I said. "It doesn't." He heard agreement. Ethan heard the difference. Wade turned to him, "Then tell her. A commander is responsible." "A commander is responsible," Ethan said. Claire looked at me with an expression I had seen at 19, at 23, and at 30. "She wanted me to make the room easier," Wade continued. "Kyle was her brother. She had one job. I had more than one person there," I said. "There it is. What the calculation?" Ethan's father shifted in his chair. Wade pointed toward me. "This is what she does. She turns people into numbers. 8 came back, so she tells herself the decision was acceptable." The number struck me. I had never told Wade how many returned in the last movement. Ethan noticed too. He asked, "Who told you 8? Wade's face changed by a fraction. Everybody knew. "No," Ethan said. "I never gave you that number. Lena never gave it to you either." Wade leaned back. "Kyle told me plenty before that night." Claire looked at him. "Dad?" He ignored her. He returned to the argument he understood. "Lena gave the order to leave. Kyle was still out there." "Those are the facts," she returned, Ethan said, after he was hit. No, Wade's voice sharpened. "You were a staff sergeant." "She was your captain. I understand loyalty." Ethan's thumb rested beside the scratch at 11. What you understand is a version somebody let you keep. The sentence landed badly. Wade turned toward me. So this is why you came tonight? I came because Claire invited me. You knew he served with you. I did not recognize him until I saw the watch. Wade laughed once. Convenient, Claire spoke quietly. Can we stop? Nobody responded. She looked at me. Lena, please. Just for tonight. The words carried 14 years behind them. Just for the funeral. Just for Thanksgiving. Just until Dad calms down. Just while Mom is sick. Just don't correct every detail. I pushed my chair back. Wade relaxed. He believed I was leaving. My mother closed her eyes. Ethan began to stand. I held up one hand. Then I lifted the chair because one leg had caught in the carpet. I carried it around the end of the table and placed it beside Claire. I sat down. Wade's expression hardened. What are you doing? Staying. This is my daughter's dinner. Claire looked at him. It's mine. He turned on her, then asked her to leave. She looked trapped between us. Wade saw it and pressed harder. If she stays, I go, Dad, and I will not stand beside you at a wedding where the woman responsible for Kyle is treated like family. I watched Claire absorb the threat. He was not only threatening to leave dinner. He was threatening the aisle, the photographs, the first dance, and every future retelling of the day. Kyle had become the price of her obedience. Wade looked at Ethan. You need to decide what kind of family you are joining. Ethan sat back down. I turned to him. Tell only what you saw. Wade pointed at me. You do not get to direct this. I'm not directing him. Ethan placed the watch in the center of the table. I saw her come back for us. Wade's hand fell. Ethan continued before he could interrupt. She stopped the vehicles under cover. She put Marcus in charge of the main group. She took a return team back for Kyle and Fareed. Wade shook his head. That is not what happened. I was there. You saw one section of it. I saw Captain Alvarez give me this watch because mine had broken. I heard her set the movement window. I heard Kyle receive the order not to separate. I counted him missing. I went back with her. Claire stared at Ethan. You never told me you were there. I told you I knew Kyle, he said. I did not know how to tell you I was there when he died. I should have. He looked at me, and I knew Captain Alvarez. I knew Lena Ortiz had served. I did not know they were the same woman. Wade said Kyle was hit because she waited. No, Ethan said. Kyle was hit after we found him. He would not have been there if she had not ordered the withdrawal. He would not have been there if he had followed the order. My mother covered her mouth. Wade stood. Do not speak about my son that way. Ethan remained seated. I am speaking about Sergeant Mercer the way he spoke about himself. Wade froze. Ethan looked at me. Did you know he sent the email? What email? That answer moved through the table more effectively than any accusation. Ethan turned toward Wade. You told me she knew. Wade's face tightened. This is not the place, Claire whispered. What email? Wade picked up his folded speech. We are done. My mother reached for his sleeve. Wade, he pulled away. Ethan said Kyle emailed the team after the convoy incident. The maintenance area returned to me, Kyle's anger. Marcus near the bench. Ethan checking the mirror. Ethan continued. He said Captain Alvarez was right about the timeline. He said he had made the team wait because he thought helping somebody gave him the right to decide for everyone. Wade spoke through his teeth. He was pressured. By whom? By her. I was on the email. She was not. Wade looked at me as if that were another thing I had arranged. Claire's voice shook. Did Kyle say anything about Lena? Not by that name, Ethan said. He wrote that he hated taking orders from someone who had known him before the uniform. He said that was his problem, not hers. Wade struck the folded speech against the table. My son was dead 3 weeks later. You expect me to let one email define him? No, I said. He turned toward me. Kyle was more than his worst decision. He was also more than the clean version you built. Wade's mouth opened. I continued. He found Fareed. That matters. He broke the movement order. That also matters. One does not erase the other. You do not get to explain him to me. I am not explaining your son. I'm telling you what my sergeant did. Wade stepped around his chair. My mother rose too. Claire said, Dad, sit down. He ignored her. Ethan reached for his phone. Wade said, what are you doing? Calling Marcus Reed. Who? Kyle's squad leader. Wade laughed without humor. Another one of her people. Marcus did not like her much. That was true. Marcus respected competence and distrusted charm. I had little charm and, on several occasions, not enough competence for his preference. Marcus answered over the metallic burst of an air wrench. Ethan asked one question. Did Captain Alvarez leave Kyle behind? The wrench stopped. No, Mercer broke position to find Fareed. She halted the convoy under cover and brought us back. Alvarez was the last one out. Wade leaned toward the phone. My son saved a man. He was brave. He was also wrong, both fit. Wade reached for Ethan's phone. My mother placed her hand on Wade's wrist. She did not grip him. She only stopped his hand from moving forward. He looked at her. She shook her head. That small motion mattered more than shouting would have. Ethan kept the call open. Marcus, did Kyle's email ever reach the family? A pause. I sent it to the casualty office after the funeral. Kyle had copied us because he wanted the correction kept with the team record. The office forwarded it to Mr. Mercer. Wade pulled his wrist free. That correspondence was private. My mother looked at him. You told me there was nothing. There was nothing that mattered. Marcus heard him. Mr. Mercer replied to the office, he said. The reply became part of the unit record when he challenged Captain Alvarez's account. Claire stopped peeling the label. Farid is alive, she asked. Yes, Marcus said. His statement is in the same packet. Can you send it? Ethan asked. I just did. Ethan's phone vibrated against the table. He ended the call and opened the file. The center of the mystery was no longer Kyle's decision. It was what Wade had known. I had believed he did not know. That belief had shaped 14 years of silence. I thought I was protecting a grieving father from a truth he had never been ready to hear. Ethan looked at me. I could have ended it there. My name had been cleared in the most basic sense. Ethan and Marcus had confirmed I returned. Kyle's email confirmed his conflict with my authority. Opening Wade's reply would move the story from grief into choice. Wade knew that too. He said, Lena, if you do this, Claire will remember her engagement dinner as the night you dragged her dead brother through the dirt. Claire flinched, he continued. Your mother will have to live with it. Ethan's family will leave believing Kyle was reckless. Is that what you want? There it was again. Peace offered in exchange for disappearance. I looked at Claire. The pieces of the bottle label lay beneath her fingers in a white pile. Open it, she said. Wade stared at her. Claire. I said open it. Ethan read only the necessary parts. Wade had acknowledged receiving Kyle's email. He wrote that Kyle would never have criticized himself without pressure from Captain Alvarez. He told the casualty office not to circulate the message to Claire or Isabel. He said the family needed one clean version of events. He wrote that Captain Alvarez could not be allowed to use Kyle's words to escape responsibility. The reply was dated 12 days after the funeral. Wade had known Kyle admitted the earlier timeline violation. He had known Kyle recognized his resentment toward me. He had known the return team brought Kyle out alive. He had chosen the version in which I froze because that version kept Kyle perfect and kept Wade powerful. Claire looked at Ethan. You had Kyle's email? I had the original, he said. I believed the casualty office had given the full record to the family. I should have asked you instead of assuming. Nobody in the room reacted the same way. My mother stared at the table as if searching for a date she had missed. Claire pushed her chair back and stood, then sat again because her legs were not ready. Ethan's father removed his glasses and cleaned them with his napkin, though the lenses were already clear. Wade folded and unfolded his printed speech. I felt no triumph. Triumph would have been easier. What I felt was the weight of all the years I had mistaken his certainty for ignorance. Claire looked at the papers in Wade's hand. Were you going to make Ethan read your version at the reception? Wade did not answer. She reached across the table and took the pages from him. The first sheet had Ethan's name at the top. Claire read 2 lines. Then she placed the speech face down. You wrote this for him? I wanted Kyle represented by someone who served. Ethan never met Kyle. He understood the life. No, she said. You thought people would believe him more than Lena. Wade looked around the table. You are all acting as if I invented the fact that my son died. Nobody said that, my mother replied. You think one email changes everything? It changes what you knew, I said. He pointed at me. You admitted responsibility. Yes, the room quieted. Claire looked at me. When? After the funeral. What did you say? I told him Kyle died under my command and I would carry that. Wade stepped toward the opening. You see, I held his gaze. I did not say I abandoned Kyle. I did not say I froze. I did not say he followed the order. You let me believe it. Yes, Claire looked at me as if another floor had shifted. I continued before anyone could rescue me from my part. I heard what he believed. I did not correct it. Why? She asked. Because you were 19. Because Mom was barely functioning. Because Wade had lost his son. Because Kyle could not defend his own choices. Because part of me thought a good commander should carry whatever the family needed. Wade laughed sharply. How noble. It was not noble. It was easier than having the argument. That stopped him. It stopped me too. For years I had described my silence as restraint. Duty, protection, some of it was fear. If I told the full story, I had to accept that Kyle had heard my order and made a different choice. I had to accept that going back did not guarantee bringing him home. I had to accept that leadership could be competent and still end in grief. Wade's lie gave me a cleaner punishment. Claire turned toward him. Did you tell Mom about the email? No, did you tell me? You were a child. I was 19. You had just lost your brother. So did Lena. Wade's face hardened. She was responsible. Claire looked at Ethan's phone, then at the speech. You used that word whenever anyone disagreed with you. Because it was true, you used Kyle to decide who was allowed in the family. I protected his memory. You protected your version. Wade moved toward the door. If this is what the wedding is going to become, I will not be there. Claire's face went still. He waited. The threat had worked before. It had changed holidays, seating arrangements, phone calls, and conversations that ended when Wade entered the room. Claire looked at me, then Ethan, then our mother. Finally, she looked at her father. You can come as my dad, she said. You cannot come as Kyle's owner. Wade stared at her. You have no idea what you're saying. I do. You expect me to sit there while she takes my place? Claire shook her head. Lena is not taking your place. She will walk you down the aisle? No, Wade looked confused. Claire spoke more steadily. Lena will walk with me from the room to the chapel door. Then I will walk by myself. That is ridiculous. It is what I want. You will regret humiliating me. This is not about humiliating you. That is exactly what she wants. I spoke before Claire had to defend me. I do not want your place. Wade turned toward me. I do not want your speech, your seat, or your apology tonight. I want you to stop saying I left Kyle. He laughed once. Or what? If you say it again, I will answer with the record. Every time, in the room where you say it, to the people you say it to. His face tightened. I continued. You do not have to call me family. You do not have to forgive me for surviving. You do not get to use Kyle to threaten Claire. You think a few old soldiers make you right? No. Kyle's choices make the story complicated. Your email makes your choice clear. My mother stood beside him. Wade reached for her purse. Let's go. She did not move. Isabel, I am staying. He looked at her with more hurt than anger. You are choosing her too? My mother shook her head. I am choosing not to leave because you are leaving. Wade walked out alone. The room stayed silent until a waiter entered with a candlelit cake and stopped at the door. Should I come back? Claire wiped under one eye. No. Put it down. Congratulations, Claire and Ethan was written in red icing. Ethan's name was misspelled. Under normal circumstances, Wade would have sent it back. Claire picked up a fork. This is perfect. Nobody knew whether she meant the cake or the fact that Wade was no longer there to reject it. Ethan slid Wade's abandoned speech beneath his plate without reading it. For 14 years, Wade had made absence feel like punishment. That night, his empty chair was only an empty chair. Claire called me at 6:30 the next morning. Neither of us had slept. When did you go back? She asked. I gave her the real timeline, not the heroic version or the punished one, from the first movement to the medical point. Did he know you came back? Yes. Did he say anything? I looked at the drawer beside the stove. One sip left in a bottle. One unfinished argument. He told me I was late. Claire made a sound between a laugh and a sob. That sounds like him. What did you say? So are you. She was quiet before asking the question she had carried for 14 years. I thought you missed my graduation because you didn't want to come home. Kyle died the same day Claire graduated from high school. Wade had told her I chose an army ceremony over hers. I had never corrected that detail either. I was still at the medical site. I know that now. I should have told you, yes. There was no instant absolution in her voice. I was grateful for that. The unit's memorial committee locked Kyle's page while it reviewed the record. Claire kept Farad's statement, which said Kyle came back for him, and the team came back for both of them. He would not let gratitude become a weapon. Will you still come Friday? Claire asked. Yes, even if Dad doesn't, yes. Will you walk with me to the door? Yes, then she said, I'm sorry I asked you to leave. I know why you did. That does not make it right. No, after we hung up, I opened the drawer and turned the old photograph face up. Kyle held a paper cup with one swallow left while Claire leaned against his shoulder and made a face at the camera. I left it that way. 3 days later, Claire stood in the bridal room in a simple dress. Wade's chapel chair was still empty. Claire was peeling the label from another water bottle. This time, she stopped halfway, rolled the strips into a ball, and dropped them in the trash. "Do you think he's coming? I don't know." She gave me a tired smile. Still a captain. A knock sounded at the door. Wade stood in the hallway wearing a dark jacket instead of the formal suit he had chosen to walk Claire down the aisle. He did not ask to enter. "You look beautiful," he told her. "Thank you." He held a folded sheet of paper and asked to speak with me. In the hallway, he handed me Kyle's original email. 3 lines had been underlined in blue. Captain Alvarez was right about the timeline. "I made the team wait because I thought my reason was more important than the order. I don't like taking commands from someone who knew me before the uniform. That is my issue, not hers." Wade looked toward the chapel. I kept the wrong part. It was not an apology. It was the first accurate sentence he had offered me about Kyle in 14 years. "Then stop keeping it," I said. He nodded. "Claire says I'm not walking her." "That is her decision, I know." The words cost him something. "Am I allowed to sit with your mother? You should ask her." He accepted the answer. When I tried to return the email, he shook his head. "It belongs with Claire." She read the first line, folded the page, and placed it inside the small bag holding her lipstick and phone. "Wade asked my mother where he should sit." She pointed beside her. He stayed silent during the ceremony and gave no toast. He attended under Claire's boundary. That was enough for one day. When the coordinator called us, Claire took my arm and we walked through the side hall. At the chapel entrance, Ethan waited near the front wearing the watch. The crack still crossed the 7, the crown was still broken. The hands were still 11 minutes fast. Claire looked at it. "You're early," she whispered. "Always," Ethan said. She released my arm. No one handed her from one person to another. She stepped into the aisle by herself. Wade watched from his seat. My mother rested her hands in her lap. I stayed at the door and watched Claire walk toward the life she had chosen. The broken crown was never repaired. Whenever the battery was changed, Ethan had the hands set 11 minutes fast. The time was not accurate. The meaning was. For years, I believed responsibility meant carrying every version of the story that hurt less for someone else. I do not believe that anymore. Kyle was brave, and Kyle was wrong. I went back, and he still died. Wade loved his son, and he used that love to control the living. Claire loved her father, and she still walked without him. None of those truths canceled another. That was the part our family had avoided. It was also the part that finally let us move. Has anyone ever used someone you loved to keep you silent? And what changed when you finally stopped protecting their version?